Good morning, one and all. Esteemed dignitaries on this virtual platform, resource persons for today's session, Dr. Siddeshwar Garde and CMA Dr. Kinnari Thakkar, Principal of our college, Professor Dr. S.V. Rathod, all my colleagues, teaching fraternity, research scholars and students from various colleges and participants from across the country. On behalf of Bhavan's Hazarimal Somani College of Arts and Science and Jairam Das Patel College of Commerce and Management Studies, I, Dr. Rupa Somnath Deshmukhia, heartily welcome you all to this national webinar on research methodology in social sciences, organized by the IQAC and MCOM section of our college in association with the Department of Commerce, University of Mumbai. Before we begin, I request all the participants to kindly rise for the national anthem. Thank you all. It is rightly said that knowledge is power, and in order to enhance this knowledge, quality research is indispensable. Researchers need to delve into this field of serious, rigorous, and systematic inquiry. Higher education too lays emphasis on quality research, which would pave the way towards producing, selecting, adapting, and synthesizing knowledge in order to add to the repository of learning and also contribute in bringing about viable solutions for the transformation of a society. We therefore need to harness our research skills, analytical faculties, and understand methodologies which are crucial in bringing the output to realization. With this backdrop, this national webinar will take us through the various terrains of research and zero in on research methodology in social sciences. Thank you. I now request our respected principal, Professor Dr. S.V. Rathod, to address the virtual gathering.
Thank you, Dr. Rupa. Good morning to one and all. On behalf of Bhavan's Hazarimal Somani College of Arts and Science and Jairam Das Patel College of Commerce and Management Studies, I extend a warm welcome to the resource person, ex-principal Dr. Siddeshwar Garde and CMA Dr. Kinnari Thakkar, all the teachers, participants, research scholars, and students from across the country. It is really a matter of great pride for us that
Principal sir, we cannot hear you.
Yes, sir. Perfect. Sorry. It is also important to understand the research process thoroughly in order to establish the credibility of your research. I often come across researchers who embark on the journey and encounter hurdles at various stages. Writing a research proposals and a research report seems to be the pressing concerns. Nonetheless, writing a research proposal and a research report require clarity and well-defined methodology. There are several dimensions to be considered while presenting a research proposal. This national webinar on research methodology in social science is precisely organized to offer guidance to the research scholars in understanding the significant aspects of research methodology. This webinar will enable the participants to understand the methodologies and create a knowledge which can be applied to real world situations. I am sure that our esteemed resource persons will enlighten all the participants, and research scholars and students will be motivated to explore the remarkable field of research. I wish all the participants all the very best. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your valuable insights. I now call upon Dr. Varsha Malha to introduce our resource person, Dr. Siddeshwar Gadde.
Thank you, Rupa ma'am. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Very good morning to one and all. It is a great honor for me to introduce our resource person, Dr. Siddeshwar Gadde. Dr. Gadde is currently a principal at Ramshed Thakur College of Commerce and Science, Kharghar. He has served in various capacities in the University of Mumbai, namely member of the Management Council, Academic Council member, Dean of Faculty of Commerce, President of University of Mumbai College Principals Association, Chairman of Board of Studies in Accountancy, Chairman of Examination Reforms Committee, and also a member of Standing Committee. He has also been a member of NEC peer team and UGC nominee in a few autonomous colleges. He has a teaching experience of 40 years at the undergraduate level and 33 years at the postgraduate level. Sir has guided 10 students for MPhil and 15 students have been awarded their doctorates under his able guidance. He has published numerous research papers in journals of national and international repute and has also executed UGC-sponsored research projects. He has authored 15 textbooks and 5 reference books. He has been a member of the delegation of Sheriff of Mumbai to UK in 2008 and has participated in a workshop on multidisciplinary approach to university leaders development organized by Harvard University, USA in 2012. Dr. Gadde has won numerous awards for his contribution to research and education. To name a few, Rajiv Gandhi Achievers Award, Gaurav Puraskar, Mother Teresa Excellence Award, Bharat Gaurav Award, Rajashri Chhatrapati Shahu Maharaj State Level Award, Raigarh Gaurav, Shiksha Shri Ratna Award, Rashtriya Shiksha Samman Award, and Bharatiya Shiksha Ratna Award. We are really fortunate to have a speaker of his caliber amidst us, and his presentation will surely inspire us. But before that, I request all the participants, in case you have any doubt or query, please put or type your question in the chat box. And I now welcome you, sir, and request you to kindly enlighten us. Thank you, sir. Gadde, sir, you can take over. Gadde, sir, please unmute yourself.
Hello? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Yes, sir. We can hear you. Can you hear me? Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
His mic is muted only, unmuted only, but we can't hear the voice.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Hello.
Can hear you, sir.
Madam Gadde sir is muted, I think. No, his audio connection is lost.
Okay. I think so.
His audio connection is not visible, sir.
He's trying to share something.
Yeah, share something.
Share the screen.
Connection is not visible.
Bindu madam,
Yes, sir.
wait for a minute. I'll call Gadde sir and I'll request him to.
Yeah, no issue, sir. Okay, yeah.
So again, he will join the meeting.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Okay. Just a minute. And you
Participants,
request all the
kindly bear with us. We'll get back in a minute. Apologies for the inconvenience. Sir is joining soon. Please bear with us.
Bindu ma'am, sir is in waiting list.
No, sir.
Rupa madam.
Yes, sir.
Now see, some technical problem is there from sir side.
Okay.
So let us request Kinnari madam to begin the session.
Okay, fine. Okay. Dear participants, due to some technical glitch, we will take the second session now. So I call upon Dr. Reshma More to introduce our second speaker for the day, CMA Dr. Kinnari Thakkar. Reshma madam, over to you.
Yes, madam. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, one and all. It is a great honor for me to introduce the co-chairperson of this national webinar and our resource person, CMA Dr. Kinnari Thakkar. She is a professor and head at the Department of Commerce, University of Mumbai. She has completed her MBA in finance and is a cost and management accountant. She has been a gold medalist from the University of Mumbai at the MCOM degree. She has a teaching experience of 21 years and she is a former principal of SIES College of Commerce and Economics, Mumbai, where she served for a period of 2 years. Her area of specialization is finance and accountancy. She is also working in various capacities at the University of Mumbai as a chairperson of Board of Study in Banking and Finance, member of Board of Study in Accountancy, and as a special invitee of Board of Studies in Business Management. She was co-opted as a member of the Board of Study in Commerce for SNDT University, Pune University, Bharati Vidyapeeth University. She is a Vice Chancellor nominee as a subject expert for appointment of teachers in various colleges and also an external referee for the assessment and the viva of doctoral thesis of various universities. Dr. Thakkar has a vast research experience. 5 students have been awarded PhD and 5 students have been awarded MPhil in commerce under her guidance from the University of Mumbai. Currently, 5 research scholars are working under her guidance for pursuing PhD in University of Mumbai. She has successfully completed 4 research projects, 2 funded by ICSSR and 2 funded by University of Mumbai. She has co-authored 6 books in the subject of accountancy and finance, organized 4 international conferences, 4 faculty development programs, 3 webinars, and 5 workshops. She has publication in journals of national and international repute. She has presented over 69 research papers at national and international conferences and was nominated as reviewer, staff panel member of the Intellect-Based International Constitutive USA. Dr. Thakkar is recipient of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Award for Teaching Excellence in 2018 and also recipient of Shiksha Ratna Puraskar for meritorious performance in teaching. We are surely going to benefit from Madam's rich research experience. Before that, I request all the participants to put their questions in the chat box. And now, I request Madam to enlighten us on the different aspects of research. Madam, over to you.
Good morning to all, Principal Sir and the organizing team. So since it is, little late, I will directly start with the sharing screen and directly start with the session. And now, since I was going to do about the report writing and Sir was going to do about the presentation of the report, but sometimes reverse gearing is very good. So I'm going to take you in a reverse gear direction. First, we will understand what is report writing, and then Sir will join and Sir will inform about how the proposal needs to be framed. So I will share my screen related to report writing. Screen is visible, ma'am? Just 1 minute, you tell me. It's in the slide scale mode, slideshow?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, then I will start.
It is visible now, highly.
So friends, good morning to all once again, and starting with a session on research report writing. Now, a lot of work you have done when you come to this stage. Technically, that stage is started right from the time you think about the topic. But your final fine-tuning is done only when your all information, data, collection, analysis, everything is completed. Post that, you start actual writing of the report. And this is one of the very, very important point, and one has to be extremely careful while you are writing a research report. What are the integral parts of the research process? The integral part of the research process involves inductive work in the process of writing. You are doing all kind of inductive work. Whatever data collection information methods you have gathered, that information now you are putting it, you are articulating it, and you are putting it in black and white with all kinds of assertions, assertive and confirmative conclusion and evidences. So let us start with the stages of research report. The first stage of research report is writing the introduction, which includes purpose and scope. Writing of the research purpose and the scope which you have included in your research area. Now there are so many questions which rise when we are writing about the purpose and what is the scope. Scope is something which you have decided at the time of making your proposal. Now a research report technically is in different formats. You can write a research report of your dissertation, of your thesis. You are writing a report of some kind of minor major research work which you have undertaken. So every type of reports which you are writing has minor variations. So typically, since right now we are talking about research report which is mainly focused on MPhil dissertation and thesis. Those who have already done PhD and those who have done MPhil, for them there will be minor variations if they are writing report on major research project which they have undertaken. And what will be those variations? Those variations will be purely dependent on the requirement of the agency which is funding them. So funding agency requirement plays an important role in this. So right now, dissertation, MPhil and PhD thesis we are writing. What are the objectives and hypotheses which you have framed that has to be an integral part of your research report? Methodology which you have included, that is the data collection techniques, the statistical techniques which you have applied, the any other formula or any other research work which you have taken for the purpose of your study. Like if you have used some model, that model which you have applied, that also has to be mentioned in methodology. Then you have findings and limitations and recommendations. I think there's a lot of noise which I can hear. So findings, conclusions and limitations. That is the format in which your research report will be undertaken. Now we are understanding each point in a very systematic and a detailed manner. What's included in the steps in report writing? The first part is logical analysis of subject matter. Now logical analysis can be done in two different parts. One is either you do it logically or you do it chronologically. Then you have to prepare outline. Outline is just the skeleton of the work which you have done. Here you please understand that we are writing a research report in which it is assumed that your 80% of the work related to research, 80% by 80% I mean collection of data, analysis of data, questionnaires filled before collection and analysis, you do questionnaire filling, all that is already completed. So you are doing just the final writing of report, but final also requires different stages: rough draft, final draft, etc. And before that you have to logically identify the flow of your work, how the work is, your writing will flow in what manner. Then you prepare the outline. Outline means you will write introduction, then you will write review, then you will write objective hypothesis, then you will write data collection. Now lot of data collection is there, but after which data collection, after which analysis should follow some other analysis. So which analysis should follow other, and after that chapter which you have analysis and analysis and interpretation of data, that will be a final outline. Again, mind well, we are not writing exactly the explanation of the graph and the table. We are just deciding which graph should follow what and what explanation needs to be written. We are deciding the flow, that is the outline. Then we will start with the rough draft. Rough draft is like a funnel. You know, you start with so many things. You must have read so many books. You must have pages. You must have documents folder. In that folder, you may have documents, 50, 60 documents, Word document, but all will not be used for your final report writing. So it takes a shape of a funnel. So much of information you are reducing to an accurate and relevant information, which is the part of your study. Then comes final draft, and then comes bibliography. So how the logical work analysis of the subject matter will be done? The logical analysis of the subject matter will be done like this. Either it can be done logically or it can be done chronologically. What is logical? Logical is the flow of subject matter is from simple concepts to complex concepts. So suppose if you are doing a study on something which is a financial literacy or a financial inclusion. Financial inclusion means what? you will write the introduction. So you will start with financial inclusion. You may add some concepts like financial literacy. You may also add, like, in financial literacy, what is a technical meaning term of financial literacy, how a government, what is the definition which is given in the working papers of the government organizations about financial literacy. So you will decide a flow. So either it can be a logical flow, or you can have a chronological flow. A chronological flow means you will decide on the basis of the dates of the time, or on the basis of the dates or the time of the events occurrence. So suppose financial literacy started first or financial inclusion started first. So like this, we have to identify which articles were published first, which information was gathered first, and accordingly you will have to write the flow of your research work. So either it can be chronological or it can be logical. You have to take a choice. You have to decide as per your study. Nobody else can accept your guide, and some experts in that area can suggest which technology. There is no general answer of which kind of subject matter style of writing can be used. It has to be purely decided by you and your guide. Preparation of final outline. Now, final outline means it is a microscopic review of all the important head points. Final outline is like a skeleton, but not merely a skeleton. You have to decide outline of each and every head points. Like if you have written, say, if you have decided about review of literature, you must have read 50, 60, 70, 80 number of journals and books. How you should write this flow of review of literature, so that you will decide at this stage, and that will be, you are deciding that the flow of review of literature will be from general to specific. So you can have some review of literature which is purely related to that area of research, which is remotely related to that area of research, and which is something, a general information about the area of research. So what kind of information you intend to share, that decision will be taken at this point. Finally, we have not started writing it. We are just preparing an outline of how the flow will go. Once that flow is decided, then you will already have one folder in which you have written all review of literature. So you will identify the relevant ones and will be pasting it into the final document file. So here you have to do a microscopic review of important, read very carefully, important head points, not the entire contents in detail. Head points. Why this has to be done? Because you should identify the logical flow of the work. It should be a very systematic and a continuity of whatever you are writing. From one point to another, logic should be seen. To ensure that all citations are properly recorded. Nowadays, citations, one of the most important point which by any in whatever comes, you should not miss it, because that has a very dire consequences on your career. So whenever you are taking some citations directly from any resources, you ensure that, when you will ensure, at which stage you will ensure that, you will ensure this at this stage, at the stage of final outline. You have to ensure that all citations are recorded. Then we have to check whether graphs and figures are prepared wherever required. Unnecessary graphs and figures, you must have prepared it earlier. You must have all possible graphs and all possible tables, charts, everything you must have prepared in your rough outline, in your rough data collection time, in your reading or the review of literature or the data collection time period. But now you will have to refine it. Out of 50 graphs, which are the most relevant and which graphs are actually required for your work, you are identifying. Again, I'm repeating, you should not write the table explanation, the explanation of the tables, the explanation of the graph. We are not writing it right now. We are only identifying that out of the number of graphs which we have gathered, collected in our folder, in our book, how many graphs are relevant for preparation of the final document, black book, or the final dissertation. That is the only point which we are doing at this stage. So refining, right, identifying relevant graphs and figures. Whether to check whether chronological numbers are assigned to graphs, figures, headings, and some subheadings. Once you have identified, this actually will be repeated in your draft process also. When you are preparing draft, this again may be repeated. So you are identifying that graph 1 should be this, graph 2 should be this. So you are writing here, there. Roughly also you can write graph 1, graph number 2, or figure 1, figure 2, table 1, table 2, map 1, map 2, diagram 1, whatever words you are using relevant to your, as per the requirement of your research work, you can chronologically number. And last will be to find out whether bibliography, appendix, list of abbreviations are prepared. So your final skeleton will include all this, from introduction, logical flow, review, everything, till preparation of bibliography. You see whether your appendices is ready, whether your abbreviations, if you are using any acronyms, if you are doing a study, suppose of financial inclusion, and sometimes you have used the word FI. If you have done it for State Bank of India and you have used the word SBI, then you have to show in the your research that SBI stands for State Bank of India. So like that, all the list of abbreviations need to show. The third stage, the next stage, is preparation of rough draft. So you are preparing the rough draft here. Now outline is ready. In the outline, what you are doing, you are writing the contents. Now whatever outline you have prepared, not necessary it has to be the same outline which you have decided. Now while writing, you may need to change something. So you can, if you want to change, you can rearrange your entire number of tables or etc. But I'm sure if you have done the final skeleton work with a microscopic, as I told, the microscopic review, then you will not need to rearrange many things. You may need to rearrange only few of the important tables. So now your how many tables, which tables are ready. Then in rough draft, you are adding contents to that. The table number 1. Table number 1 is the financial literacy in this area. The financial literacy, and then X tables, decoration of table, color choosing, etc. you can do, and then write. As per table number 1, this and so and so area is showing high financial literacy, as people of that area has knowledge and information related to the various financial products. So you are writing a kind of explanation. So full outline. In outline, now you are filling up gaps. It is just like preparing the structure and then filling all the relevant informations in that skeleton structure which is being prepared. So then you are writing introduction, contents of your introduction, contents of your review of literature, objectives, hypothesis, which you have already framed at the time of your proposal, when the proposal was initially at the time of your registration. However, there is a flexibility that you may modify it, because the time of your proposal and the actual thesis, there may be a gap of 2 or 3 years. So within that 2 or 3 years, you must have read so many things, and you must have, the entire scenario would have changed. So you can insert contemporary and relevant, but you cannot, you have to stick to the title which you have selected at the time of proposal. High major variation should not be incorporated. Only a little bit of minor understanding, minor concept clarity you can incorporate. So it should not be a major deviation from what topic you and objectives and hypotheses which you have identified. then you have to write everything. Rough draft means as good as your entire completion of your writing. You will have to write about data analysis, interpretation, findings, conclusions, and recommendations. It also includes preparation, numbering of table graphs and diagrams. In the previous stage, if you have only identified which tables are required, now you can start numbering all your tables, graphs, and diagrams. Then the final draft. Final draft is the most important and difficult part of formal writing. Mediocre and a good researcher. A good researcher always thinks and writes. A mediocre researcher will always paraphrase. What is paraphrased? Something you have got some other writing. Exactly you cannot copy. You know that there are legal issues involved, so you are paraphrasing it. The same sentences you are writing in a different way using the same words. So this kind of writing is highly unexpected in case of a good researcher. So you have to prove yourself as a mediocre researcher or a good researcher, and that will be for the skills, the writing skills which you possess. Not that everybody is born with a very good and high skill, but you will have to work in the direction. Your entire writing will depend on how much you have read. So it is a general saying that unless you read, you cannot write. All story writers, if you see, all those who write books, story books also, not only the authorship, which our reference books, etc. All those who write story books, novels, fiction, non-fiction, anything, if you ask them, for writing one book, they must have read more than hundreds of such kind of novels. So it is always better that when you are doing your review of literature, at that time only you start framing the type of language which you want, framing the sentences which you want to be incorporated in the final draft. So final draft will generally reflect your skill, and with a proper, a small thing like a comma, semicolon, full stop also plays an important role. So with this, I will just remind you one thing, that I had a friend of mine who's a very senior person, retired person, who has written a paper and was selected in a Springer journal. As per format, everything was done. Only one thing which while sending, as per the Springer's format, instead of comma, he had put semicolon. The paper was sent back with a note that page number so and so, in the point number 1, there is a comma, but which requires a semicolon. The sentence framing this comma does not suit for this kind of sentence which you have framed. Only that small correction was there, and the paper was sent, and the time limit was given that within this day you again resend your paper. So you imagine the quality of journals where publications is done, how much of minute details are being read. So, and if you want a lot of Google citations, if you want your H index, I index, etc., this part plays a very important role. This will differentiate between a mediocre and a good researcher. So it is just not what you have gathered, you are putting it in one book, you're putting it in one file, document. No, it is you are putting your own thoughts, your own innovative ideas, and or your own work which you have done. So what are the main components of research report? The main components of research reports: preliminary pages, main text, and end matter. Preliminary pages will be title and date, acknowledgements if you have any preface or a forward from somebody, table of contents. Table of contents technically will be your introduction, then your chapter 1, chapter 2, whatever number of chapterization, the chapterizations which you have list of tables and illustrations, list of tables, graphs, or any other kind of pictorial views, pictorial pictures which you have, pictorial format which you have used. All that can be for preliminary pages. Then main text, which has 7 sections. Each section we will discuss. It is from introduction to conclusion. Then end matter. At the end, you will have appendices that should be enlisted in a respective technical data. You will have questionnaires, sample information, then any other mathematical deviations or any models which you have used for your research. For example, any research in case of core finance area. Suppose if you are doing something on capital asset pricing model, the model is not designed by you, the model is already existing, the model is already been studied, and the model is being applied in practical, but you are using that model in a particular sector, that in this sector how this model will work. Or you are doing some mutual fund and you want to do Sharpe, Renner, Jensen comparison, then the models are existing. So some information related to models or derivations, etc., if you have, you can put that in the end matter. So what will be the preliminary pages include? The preliminary pages will include title page, preface, acknowledgement, the chapterization, tables, figures, glossary, and list of abbreviations. If you have some specific definitions which you have derived, sometimes it is happening that you are coining your own definition. Out of so much of reading and work, you are coining on your definition. So this coining of definition and the other definitions which you have used for your study can be a part of your glossary. Then main text will include review of literature, introduction, review of literature, research design, data analysis interpretation, finding conclusion, recommendation, and scope for further study. Now this is a typical format also which you have. Here everything in detail, review of literature, proper systematic referencing and formatting style. Research design also, what all research design should include? The research design will include the description of the research work, the data collection sources which you have, primary data, secondary data, then sampling procedure, samples, which size, which techniques, and sample tools which you have used, all that will be a part of your research design. Then validity of data, reliability of data, whether your sample is a representative of population, how do you justify that your sample represents the population? That also has to be a part of research design. And the statistical treatment, if any. So everything should be included in research design. Also in introduction, what should be included, that also we'll just understand in 1, 2 or 3 sentences. That is, introduction means you have to logical flow of your work. You have to write your statement of problem, significance of the problem, the purpose of the problem, hypothesis, limitations, and operational definitions. Now, operational definition is very important in social science and humanities studies, especially in a case where you are using some kind of parameters which are already framed, already coined from some working papers, but you are not using that in toto. You are using that only in a partial form. For example, if I am using the study, if I'm doing a study or using a term financial inclusion. Now financial inclusion, if you read the government working papers or if you read the information which is given in the government websites, there are some 5 or 6 variables in the financial inclusion. You are doing a PhD thesis, you are not, and you are doing it for some particular area or some particular stage. Suppose in that particular stage, all 5 to 6 variables does not fit. Some variables are not, relevant to that particular area which you have selected, you have identified. or even though if it is relevant, you are not very much interested in identifying that variable's performance. You are interested in some other variables which are out of that 6. So you have to mention in your operational definition as researcher, financial inclusion means parameter 1, variable 1, variable 2 or parameter 2, or variable 3 or parameter 3, whatever 3 variables you have selected out of the 6 variables which are in the definition of the working paper published by the government agency. So you have to write everything. You have to specify, you have to mention that government working paper is giving 6 variables, but my research is including only 3. Then you have to justify why your research is including only 3. You can say that these 3 are more relevant to this area, these 6 are generally for overall Indian context, or pan-India level, but I am not doing research on pan-India level. My research is restricted only to a particular area which has, I can see more obvious the functioning or appearance. So you should be very argumentative type. When this kind of in an argumentative mode you should go when your this explanation related to selection of variables is asked. So don't leave that opportunity. You mention it. Then once you have mentioned, you are explaining whatever is already mentioned. So you mention that operational definition where you will mention it in the introduction part along with all your hypothesis, objectives, scope, and rationale of the study, etc. Review of literature, again what you will do, review, I said 3 different stages or 3 different points you can cover in the review of literature. One which is directly related, one which is indirectly related to your study, and one which is remotely related to study. You can review all the 3 kinds of literature, books which are related directly, indirectly, or remotely related to your study. Then data analysis and interpretation, as you said that as you all know that data analysis and interpretation is related to collection of different data, primary data, secondary data, whatever data you have decided to your research work is been done. Then you are writing findings and conclusion, major findings, major conclusions, and recommendation, scope for further study. Scope for further study again becomes that you are also giving your other insights while doing review of literature, or while you're doing your other writing work. You must have come across so many other information which is not possible for you to include because your area is restricted to this particular variable, but you may have some other information which you have gathered, so you can write it as a connecting link that or a connecting thread, which you are going to mention that although my study is related to this, but I have observed that the studies related to this area, studies related to including of this particular X variable, Y variable also can give good and fruitful results and conclusions. So that is what you have to mention in your scope for further research. And end matter, you have to write bibliography, appendix, whatever questionnaire and whatever other information which you have used for collection, and synopsis. Generally the synopsis, this is specifically related to a PhD thesis work. Synopsis here will be the gist of whatever a brief kind of information, whatever entire thesis work you have done. So that also has to be incorporated in the end matter of your MPhil as well as of your PhD dissertation. What all should be included in appendix other than your sample questionnaire or any kind of interviews or anything which you have taken? Other than that, you can also use photographs and charts not inside the text, which are not inside the text, but which you feel has enabled you to logically understand your topic and has allowed you to gather many different aspects related to that area relevant to your study. So you can put such photographs and charts also, which are not forming a part of text, that can be put in the appendix. What are the two types of reports? There are a number of reports, but as our focus is on number of types of reports, but as our focus is only on PhD and MPhil or maybe minor major research kind of work, academic research, there is a formal research report and informal report. Formal report is collection and interpretation of data, and informal is to inform, analyze and recommend. Which type of reports we are doing as a in academics? It is always a formal report, because what we are doing, we are collecting and we are interpreting important data which has been gathered during the time period of the research which you are undertaking. So informal is just like your office, in the office in one department, their information is needed. So suppose marketing department is giving some information to other department or gathering for their own purpose, then they will just collect information and make some recommendations. Like if you want to suggest some important technique to the finance department, so they will, marketing department will gather information and then they will say that this product is better, this product has more demand in the market. So they will say, the production department or the finance department, production department, they will inform that the market demand of product X is high, so you focus on more manufacturing of product X. And accordingly, finance department, to ensure that all related finances and all related work related to product X is done. So it is an informal. You are not writing it in detail, systematic, using some different styles, techniques, etc. You are just preparing, gathering data and informing it to the relevant, to the user, end user, who will actually use the data and come out with some different ideas, or maybe use the data for the benefit of that company. So that kind of report is an informal report, but we are not doing that. We are actually writing systematical by using different various data styles, steps, styles, everything. So we are using formal report. Now, when we are writing, there are language. There is a typical language which is to be used. So which language is to be used for which chapter or for which stage, that we will discuss now. There are basically three types of characteristics of language. One will be factual, one will be impersonal, and one will be personal. Now, only one logic when one has to apply when you decide which kind of language is to be used for which stage or for which chapter of your research work. Title means whatever is the fact, the title that you will apply. So title has to be just a name. Table, you cannot do anything that I have done this table, or the table was prepared by me and the researcher, etc. These kind of words you cannot use. So all where researcher, I, we, all that words cannot be used, that comes under this category of factual. So what is fact? That is specified. Title, what is the exact title? Fact, we are specifying. Tables, numbers, contents, we are specifying. Summary also, whatever is the summary information about the research work, that we are specifying. And bibliography, again, bibliography means whatever information, references you are gathered, from where the source of information and references you have gathered, you are mentioning that. Now here again I will tell you after this the difference between references and the bibliography. Then when you are writing summary can be both. Summary can be impersonal or use of third person also, and it can be factual also. Because summary is, if you understand, summary is what? Summary is a brief of what you have done. So sometimes the brief is related, connected to the past research, past study, and you are adding some new portion of your research work in the summary. So the past one will be based on the factual, but the one which you have added in your research work, that will be based on, and this language characteristics will be Like this, the researcher tried to apply this formula and analyze the performance of the company. So summary can be a mixture of factual information as well as for impersonal information. Introduction. Now, introduction, what you will write? Introduction will be for as the information relevant to the topic, the area which you have chosen. Methods and findings. Methods and findings, how you are writing, you will write it in the way the researcher collected the data from 300 persons, 300 responses. That means the sample size was 300. The researcher analyzed this data using SPSS software, R software, etc. The validity test was done. The reliability test was done by the researcher. The researcher observed that this was the finding. Performance in the area of Maharashtra is higher compared to performance in the area in the state of Bihar. This kind of explanation when you are writing, that will be using the third person researcher. You are not writing me as a researcher, I as a researcher, we as a researcher. You can write, but not in PhD and not in MPhil dissertation. In which kind of report you can write, again there will be another session, but focusing, we are not moving away from focus. So here you can write, the researcher has identified 3 variables to define what is a financial inclusion. The variables include number of bank accounts, the number of financial products available, the knowledge of the financial products available. So you are writing that as a researcher, as a third person, you are writing information. So language characteristics, many of the time when we have read any research thesis, we understand that the grammar has been very mistakenly used. Then according to me, this state needs to focus on some particular, like if we are in COVID right now, you can say that Maharashtra, Delhi, very high number of cases of COVID. So Maharashtra and Delhi needs to give more information. So my recommendation is to provide the facilities of treatment, better facilities of treatment to Maharashtra state and to Delhi to ensure that we are fighting with this COVID pandemic and follow whatever further recommendations you have to give. So in recommendation, you can be personal, can be, not that you should be. You can also write that researcher thinks that this information according to the observation, Maharashtra state and Delhi needs to be given more information about and more importance to deal with the COVID pandemic situation. So you have to mention as per the requirement of the recommendation, whether on your personal level you are giving that recommendation. And the last important information related to writing of a report is using of referencing styles. Referencing styles can be in-text referencing, in-text referencing, and can be full reference. Full reference means at the end. Now, before references styles, I will tell you about the difference between referencing and bibliography. Referencing, when you are writing, it means you have actually used the information related to your study area from that particular source. Like from the particular reference book, from the particular article you have actually used. If you have used a model, this research article or research paper, that means you can write it as a part of reference. Bibliography includes something which you have referred and mentioned, but you have only referred, but you have not mentioned. So something which you have reference books which you have referred and used it for writing quotation, citation, etc. But something which you have only referred, you have not taken from that book any point or any important information, you have not taken, you have just read it for the purpose of information, but not used it for the purpose of your writing or the research report. So all this will include in bibliography, but if you have used it, then it will be a part of your references. So normally after every chapter you have references. Chapter 1 you have references because you must have cited definition of financial inclusion, that this person X defines financial inclusion as that, Y defines financial, so you have cited that. But at the end bibliography, you have references of all chapters, plus you have read some books for your information but not cited it anywhere, mentioned anywhere, or not used any quotations or information from that particular source. That will be bibliography. So now there are specific styles of writing references also, as well as bibliography. So for writing style, there is no difference between a reference or a bibliography. For writing styles, you have to either choose the most popular reference style. Three more popular reference style is Harvard system, APA system, and MLA system. So in Harvard system, if you see, I will start with MLA and APA because Harvard system is similar to APA, but MLA is more popular in and APA is more popular in social sciences. So according to since we belong to the social science or humanities and other, not a core science, normally we use APA system for that. So I will just first explain. If you want to quote reference in an MLA system, you can see the difference. In an MLA system, we are writing Sharma and Verma, will write page number, author's name, and then we'll write the details of the book. First, I will explain about full text reference. Full text reference, when you understand, in text references sometimes not required for certain universities. Generally nowadays, people all prefer full text references at the end of the chapters. So here you can see, in full reference we have Sharma, Ram, K, and Verma, Ajay, S. This is full name we have to write. In MLA system, full name. Whereas you see in APA, you are writing only Sharma, last name, and first letter, RK. Verma, AS. Also, you may note that here we are writing AND, A and D. Here we are not writing AND. It is ampersand. We are just writing this. So this is the typical style of writing. Now, if any research journal mentions that you have to write in APA style, and if you write and if it is a high quality journal, they will return your paper back. So here you have to write name, last name full, first name full, and full, and then you have to mention the book's name, the articles, the source name, publisher name, and year. Page numbers, if you have taken quotes from that page number, then page number. Otherwise, page numbers, if you have not taken from anything, just referred it and used for your own models or for your own writing, then you may not write. But if you see here, APA, last name, first name full not required, your last name, then the source, the title, the page number if required or not. Here we are writing PP, here we are not writing PP. Now once you know APA, Harvard is almost a replica of or almost similar to APA. Hardly any difference you will see between APA style of writing and Harvard style of writing. So structure here same, last name, here, but here it is inside brackets, but here there is no bracket. That's the only minor difference. Otherwise everything else remains the same. Only thing is you have to remember, in MLA everything is full. Last name full, first name full, and A and D full, and year is written at the end. Whereas in APA and Harvard, only the last name is given important, everything else in short. And year is written immediately, followed after the publisher's name. So almost the same in the in-text referencing also. But for social science, APA is the most popular system, APA system of writing. You can also mention the same work if it is already done. You can mention OPCIT, that is refers to the work previously referenced, and therefore give authors and date if necessary, the page number. So full details, publisher's name, etc. cannot be mentioned. Is not required. You can only mention Gupta, year, and this everything is already existing in some other chapter which you have written. Similarly, so you don't have to write it all again, that the publisher's name, the title, all that you don't have to write. Only page numbers are different, you have to write the page numbers. Then LOC-CIT, loco citatum, that is the work which is cited, and this refers to the same page of the work previously referenced. So in the chapter review of literature, suppose you have 10 different books. First book information review you have taken from Gupta, and the fifth review again you have taken from Gupta. So you did not mention everything in detail again. You just mentioned LOC-CIT, means in the same page this work has been cited, in the same page. Similarly, point number 3 is related to Gupta, and point number 4 is also related to the work from Gupta's book. So you can write EVDN. The same word given immediately before 3 and 4. So in 3 you will write full details, publisher name, page number, then Sharma KS, Verma RL, etc. But for point number 4, you will just write IBID. That means it is understood. This is the style of referencing in your report writing. So this is how the entire report, right from introduction to writing, including grammar and the references style, is prepared. So with this, all the best to all of you, and thank you very much for your opportunity to share my views with all of you. Over to you, madam.
Thank you very much, madam, for a very informative and insightful presentation. And you have outlined all the essential steps of report writing in a very lucid manner. I'm sure our participants will benefit from this experience, and the way you have given a comprehensive coverage to the important aspects of writing a report. Thank you very much. We are indebted to you. We now open the session for discussion, and I request Ms. Reena Patel to kindly moderate the Q&A session. Over to you, Reena.
Thank you, Dr. Rupa. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Rupa.
Yeah.
And thank you, Thakkar ma'am, for a wonderful session. Ma'am, we already have few questions in the chat box. Till then, the participants can also put up the questions right now. Ma'am, the first question is, what research methodology should be used for business economics?
There is no particular methodology, madam, which or sir, whoever, which is framed. It is all depending on your research area, the research topic.
An incredible webinar on research.
So what is your research area and research topic? Everything depends, the methodology purely depends on that. But there's a general methodology which I said, there's the entire using of, if you are doing any model, then your methodology will be purely based on that research model, if it is econometrics. So it cannot be concluded that one particular methodology is suitable for a particular subject. It has to be on the basis of your title.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, now, yeah, there is a question. Referencing.
Repeat the question.
Yeah, ma'am, the question is about writing et al. Et.al in the referencing. Can you put a light on that?
Okay. That is when, that is when you have 2 or 3 authors. 2 authors we are already mentioning, but as I showed you that when you have more than 2 authors, 3 authors, you cannot write everybody's name. So you have to write and others. and that and others can be written as ETAL, et al. So et al stands for more than three authors. In fact, two authors you can still mention, but if you have more than two authors and you need not write everybody's name, the first author and et al.
Okay. Ma'am, now there's a question which asks that is there a specific rule which talks about how many reviews should be included in the report? How many literature reviews?
Ideally, people may not like it also sometimes if I give more numbers, but ideally for understanding the concept, 90 to 100 related, remotely, indirectly, directly, whatever. As I said, it can be remotely related, directly related, indirectly. But ideally, you should read for a good research work 90 to 100 books, articles, newspaper cuttings, whatever. I'm not telling full 100 entire big book. No, it can be articles, it can be newspaper cuttings, anything. Newspaper information or from magazines or published by different institutes like Costing Institute, economics also, they have a lot of publications, institutions which are doing publications. So you can do anything from that, but I feel for a good research, 90 to 100.
Okay. And ma'am, I think you have...
other things depend on your guide.
Okay, and you have also answered the next question, which was about can we include newspaper articles in the literature? Yeah, you have already answered that. Yes, now there was a question about Chicago reference styling. What about it?
Yeah, that is another that I have not mentioned here, because in social service, social science mainly you have this reference APA style, and our focus was more on social science and humanities. So popular is APA, but there is a Chicago also. There in that domain, you have in which domain it is popular. That depends on what research article, in which article you are publishing it. And the minor difference is there. You don't write page numbers. You write it, year into bracket. These are the minor differences between three different styles of writing.
Okay, ma'am. The question is about APA style only. What do we write in italics? Do we write the name of the journal in italics, or do we write the name of the paper? That's the question. Next question.
Name of the journal. As well, the title of the journal. Sorry, title of the paper. Title of the paper we write in journal.
Another question which I think every researcher has in the mind: how many pages should be included in the thesis? How many pages of thesis should be there is the next question, ma'am.
There is no standard format, but minimum you have to have 280 to 300 minimum. Beyond that you can go, depends on your research. But it cannot be 100 page, because if it is 100 page research, that means you have not included something major, which is like your review of literatures. In fact, sometimes review of literature pages are only, if you really review 50, 60, 80, and you write one paragraphs of each, that only comes to around 25 pages, 25 to 30. So minimum 250 pages you try.
Yes. Ma'am, we'll take up the last question. It is kindly update on Blue Book style of reference and how it is different from APA style.
Which style?
Blue Book style of reference.
There is, as I told you, in any kind of referencing, it is just, somewhere you have semicolon, somewhere you have comma, somewhere page number is written in the beginning, somewhere page number is written in the ending. So everywhere, every reference has to have 4 or 5 important points. One is the name of the author, year, the publisher, the title, and the page number. These are the 5 important points which has to be mentioned in all the styles of referencing. Only thing is, you have to remember where, if you are writing for this particular journal, they prefer APA style, so you have to write it as per the APA style. So what matters is where to put comma, where to put brackets, and where to put page numbers. This is the only difference between all the styles of referencing. And somewhere in some they are mentioning about writing in italics. Not all are mentioning about writing in italics.
Can we take up one more question?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Yeah. The question is about, is there any particular rule where we write footnotes and where do we write endnotes?
Footnotes were popular earlier. Nowadays, if you see, from last 1 or 2 years, everything is becoming like a reference only. So endnotes, footnotes, all that nowadays is not very popular and not very accepted, nor in universities of India, or nor even in other abroad universities, wherever we have seen, most of them, they are preferring. But for answering this, if you want to write in the same page exactly what you have taken from that particular reference source, exact quotation, if you have taken from some reference code, exact model which you have used, that model which was given by the one author, and you are using that, immediately below that you can mention. If you are not using the exact model and exact code, then you can write it as a reference.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for satisfactorily answering all the queries. Over to you, Dr. Rupa. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am, for answering and clarifying all the doubts that upcoming researchers, budding researchers may have. And this session could go on and on, but you have really clarified it, and your presentation was wonderful. You've tried to simplify it. Such a complex process, but you've simplified it. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Dear participants, we have a problem with there's some technical glitch, so our resource person, Dr. Garde, is unable to join. Kinnari ma'am, would you just like to say a few words regarding his presentation? Because I think sir has some technical issue at his side.
That was related to research proposal, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
I can just I think research proposal also has almost the similar steps. So I can just in brief give you some idea about how this research proposal is to be prepared. But ignore this word research report, okay? And just these steps I will focus on.
Okay, thank you.
So friends, we'll discuss something about the writing of research proposal. Now, two important points here. One is clarity in your title and clarity related to the scope of your research work. That's two important points you have to note when you are framing a research title. So when you are framing a research title, for example, suppose if I am doing a research on, now since my favorite subject is finance and accountancy, my examples are also based on finance and accounts related, not accounts because it becomes little technical and related issues, topics. So suppose if I am doing a research on study of financial inclusion in the state of Maharashtra. So my title, with if you have some specific reference, then we can write with specific reference to so and so. But suppose if I am just writing a title of a study on a study of financial inclusion in the state of Maharashtra. Is the title giving you the information about what study I intend to do? Yes, the title is saying that I intend to do a study on financial inclusion. Is it mentioning the scope, the limit which I have said? The limit is related to the state of Maharashtra. Now, one question which rises, am I taking full state of Maharashtra? Suppose if I am not taking, you can mention it in the research methodology. That these districts or areas in the state of Maharashtra is considered. You can mention it in the title also with specific reference to Mumbai and Palghar district. Suppose if you are writing that, you can mention it in the title. So when you are preparing a research proposal, the first point should be your actual area of research and your scope. So scope and area. Now this varies from university to university about how you want them to you want them to mention your research title. But while framing a research proposal, the first clarity which you should give is research title. While you start writing the research proposal, the steps remains the same. Introduction, objectives, hypothesis, methodology. Findings will not be here because you are just writing your research proposal. So you will not have findings here. Conclusions, recommendations also you will not have. You can just have references at the end. The methodology which you are trying to use, and then you will have the references at the end. So introduction in that purpose and scope, and the most important part here will be review of literature. So the formal process of report writing will include 5 steps: introduction, review, objective, hypothesis, research methodology, and references at the end of that. What you should write in introduction? Very, very specific. A research proposal should not be more than 30 to 35 pages. Don't give 50, 60 pages research proposal. Restrict it to maximum 30 to 35 pages. So a research proposal for 30 to 35 pages, maximum I'm telling, you can have even 20 pages research proposal. Not necessary, it has to be that. So suppose, assuming you are restricting your research up to 30 pages, your first 4-5 pages should be introduction. 4-5 pages should be for introduction. And what you will write in that introduction? Example, again I will say, a study on financial inclusion in the state of Maharashtra. So what I will write in my introduction? I will write financial inclusion. I will write information about what is the meaning of financial inclusion, what are the parameters of financial inclusion, what are the variables of financial inclusion. If you have 4 different studies which have been done on financial inclusion, then you can write, as per the government working papers, financial inclusion is this, these variables. As per a study conducted by Standard and Poor, as per a study conducted by some other agency, financial inclusion includes this. So if you see, every information related to financial inclusion, possible, good, published and authentic information related to financial inclusion, you have mentioned, you have gathered, and you are writing. So this easily will take 3 to 4 pages of your introduction. Then you have to be very specific about what are the objectives and hypotheses. Now, right now, I am not discussing objectives and hypotheses because actual framing of objective and hypothesis is a 3-hour session, full-fledged. So that session right now, only just as a part, content of research report, I will tell you that it has to be mentioned, objective and hypothesis. Overall, I'll tell you that minimum how many objectives are expected. For an article which you want to publish, 2 or 3 objectives are enough. For an MPhil dissertation, 3 to 4. That is also, maximum 3 to 4 objectives if you have, sufficient, fair enough. For a research thesis, many of them are given so many objectives, 7 to 8 to 10, but maximum restrict up to 7. Don't go beyond 7 objectives. I would ideally say prefer between 5 to 7, 5 objectives to 7 objectives you prefer. And in that also specific style you have. First objective should mention about the general understanding, like to understand the concept of financial inclusion. What is your objective for this study? You are clearly stating objective for the study is to understand the concept, the meaning of financial inclusion. And the last objective, suppose if I am taking 7, the last objective will be to make recommendations and information and give suggestions, to make recommendations and give suggestions. In between, out of 5, if I have taken first and last, in between 3, only for those 3, hypothesis has to be framed. So for 3 objectives, hypothesis will be framed, not for all objectives, because hypothesis has to be framed on the objectives which are achievable. So are you achieving the objective using technical statistical technique? Are you achieving the first objective? You are just writing to study and understand the financial inclusion concept. Are you using a statistical technique for that? No, you are just reading, referring and writing that. So that objective, hypothesis should not be there. Then you are giving recommendation. Are you using a statistical technique for giving recommendation? not for recommendation, for your work you are giving. So for that also you should not have a hypothesis. Remaining, for the remaining you should have hypothesis. So this is how the hypothesis and objectives are to be framed. Then methodology. Methodology will include data collection sources, primary, secondary. Ideally you do from primary sources as well as secondary sources. Combination of both always gives a better weightage to your work. Some of them say that secondary sources is not considered for certain universities, but not like that. In fact, foreign countries, they will always say that primary source of methodology of data collection you have manipulated. So we have no surety about what primary information you have collected and on what analysis and your outcome has been based on that. So they all prefer published, especially authenticate from authentic sources, secondary data. So in methodology, either primary, secondary, both or any one can be applied. Review of literature, which I think I have covered enough. Review of literature information, direct review, indirect review, and indirect literature relevant and remotely relevant information. And you have to write then bibliography and references. Bibliography and references also in detail we have covered. So a technical format of contents of the research report will include all this, right, from importance, scope, significance, then need of the study, objective hypothesis, methodology, review, and bibliography, which has to be written in different styles. So this is the format of research report. I think everything in detail right now, maybe due to paucity of time, will not be able to cover up, but an overall layout of a research report is which I think I have tried to put forth against the participants. So thank you very much for again this brief intro, opportunity for giving this brief information about review, about the format or the contents of research report. Over to you, madam.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Thank you for stepping in and again giving us a brief layout of the research proposal. Can we take a few questions, ma'am, related to research proposal? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay, so request Ms. Reena Patel, if you could take the questions from the chat box.
Yes. Thank you, Rupa. Ma'am, we had a question, rather a doubt. The participant says, I am giving references after every chapter and also at the end I am giving bibliography. So is it repetition and unnecessarily increasing the pages?
No, it is a must. Every bibliography is the total of references plus readings. What is the actual meaning of bibliography? References plus readings. References is what you have used and cited and quoted and used in the. See, if you have not used it, means you have done it wrong. But I'm telling you the technical meaning of references is the source from which you have cited or the source from which you have picked up some information, and other sources which you have just read. So that becomes bibliography. So the definition of bibliography is references plus readings.
Yes, ma'am. There's a question which asks, why to quote work which we have not used in bibliography?
Then there is no need to quote. You must, if you have read it, then you have to write it that we have bibliography means readings also, references plus readings. So you have to write it that you have used these sources for improving your understanding of the area of your research.
Okay. Ma'am, the question is, what degree of difference can be tolerated between the proposal and actual thesis? How much difference is acceptable between the proposal and actual thesis?
Except title and some objectives and hypothesis, full degree can be different. Everything can be different. Because title changing will have a lot of lengthy procedure, and which is not permitted. In exceptional cases, it is permitted, but one should not go for that. And objective and hypothesis, it's an evolving thing. As we go on reading, you get new information and you gather new knowledge. So for that also 5 to 10% here and there, but proposal and your final dissertation can have a lot of difference and lot of value addition.
Okay. Yeah, ma'am, the question is, if a researcher refers to a paper of author A and author A has written something from author B and the researcher is not getting the paper of author B, so what should be reference? I hope I was clear. Should I
Yeah, that
repeat,
is a
ma'am?
snowball. That's a snowball reference.
Yeah.
Snowball reference.
Okay.
You are referring because somebody else has referred. Ideally, you should not do that. Ideally, it should not be done. You should use the reference which you have actually done.
I think that's it. Yes, ma'am. That's it with the questions. If participants have any more questions, please put it in the chat box. Thank you so much, ma'am. Over to you, Rupa.
Thank you, Reena, for moderating the Q&A, and thank you, ma'am, again for wonderfully answering all the questions. Participants, there's an announcement regarding the feedback link. It's already posted in the chat box, so please fill out the form there before you exit the Zoom. I now call upon, we've come to the end of the session, so I call upon Ms. Bindu to propose vote of thanks. Over to you, Bindu, ma'am.
Thank you, Rupama. Good afternoon, one and all. It is my privilege to propose vote of thanks on behalf of Bhavans Hazarimal Somani College of Arts and Science and Jairam Das Patel College of Commerce and Management Studies. I, Ms. Bindu, extend my deepest appreciation to all those who have made this webinar possible. We are grateful to Department of Commerce, University of Mumbai for collaborating with us. At the outset, I wish to express my gratitude to the resource person, Dr. Siddeshwar Garde. It was unfortunate that sir was not able to join the session because of some technical issue. And CMA Dr. Kinnari Thakkar for accepting our invitation for enlightening all of us. This session effectively shed light on the various aspects of pertaining to research methodology. We are grateful to you, ma'am, for briefing the area of Garde sir also. I sincerely thank the management of our college for granting us the permission to conduct this webinar. I will take this opportunity to sincerely thank our principal, Professor Dr. S.V. Rathod, for his unwavering support and motivation to organize such educational activities. My thanks are due to the IQAC coordinator, Dr. Manjusha Patwardhan and her team, namely Dr. Varsha Malla, Dr. Kiran Jadhav, Ms. Reena Patel, and Dr. Rupa Deshmukhya for their tireless efforts in organizing this webinar. I thank the faculty members of MCOM, namely Dr. Varsha Malla and Reshma More, for their cooperation and support. My thanks are due to Dr. Sandeep Mind and Dr. Kiran Jadhav for the technical support and painstaking efforts in organizing this webinar. Finally, I wish to put on record my appreciation and gratitude towards all the participants for their overwhelming response. Thank you all.
Rupa, ma'am? Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. We look forward to many such sessions with you in future.
Sure,
Thank you
ma'am.
very much.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.